It's time for the big one. India versus Australia, 4 tests, the fight for the Border-Gavaskar trophy, and endless drama, some of which has already begun with the first ball yet to be bowled. Welcome to Game Time with me, Mihir Vasavda. As always, joining me is Rahul Pandey. And as always, we have to do the heavy lifting, Sandip G. Welcome, Rahul. Welcome, Sandip. I'm damn excited.
Hi, Mihir. Rahul. Yeah, Shashank.
I'm damn excited for this series to begin, guys. I don't know. I mean, आप लोग का what's the mindset right now? But I really can't wait for February 9 and the first ball to be bowled.
Absolutely, Mihir. Totally. I mean, this has been the most anticipated Test series in a while. I mean, easily the Test rivalry of this decade. I mean, of the century, maybe.
Wow, that's already the first ball और आपने पहले ही बाउंसर पे एक छक्का मार दिया, संदीप. राहुल पांडे. This century की सबसे बड़ी rivalry, I mean, there is no point of disagreeing with Mr. G here, but well, do you disagree with him?
I can't, mate, and especially in Test cricket because there will be India-Pakistan enthusiasts, of course, who will pick that rivalry up as something else. But Test cricket उतना हुआ नहीं उन दोनों teams के बीच में over the last few years. And these two, on the other hand, have played some of the best thrillers. Of course, we all will remember that 2020-21 Border-Gavaskar trophy in Australia. But even the last time these two played in India in 2017, it was a heck of a series. Many of the people thought that it will be Deja Vu 2013, जहां India ने 4-0 whitewash किया था. But that one, interestingly went on till the final match, which India won under the captaincy of one Ajinkya Rahane, who also helped them win the series in Australia that couple of years ago by a 2-1 margin. So yeah, I think, this of course is one heck of a rivalry. And I think iska jo promo tha is series ka, it was already given by Ravichandran Ashwin during the Sydney test, where he said to one former Australia skipper now that, the next time Australia come to India, it will be your last series. And of course, that Australian skipper is not part of the squad of the Australian side, jo yahan pe aayi hai. So yeah, I think it's going to be one spicy one.
Sandeep, how did this turn into a big rivalry? I mean, it was always a one-sided rivalry when we were growing up. We've always seen Australia thrash India. And then suddenly, it became a point where, I don't know if India are ahead, but certainly both teams are equal going into this series.
Yeah, 90s it used to be Australia will thrash India in Australia and India will thrash Australia in India. But everything changed with that series. I mean, of course, 2001 series, 2001 in Calcutta, one of the greatest comebacks ever in cricket. I mean, that changed this rivalry between these two countries. Thereafter, there's always been that needle mind games. And I don't remember in the 90s they ever had played these mind games and all those stuff. But from 2001, the rivalry just elevated itself to a different platform. And of course, I mean, there have been some tremendous test matches like 2001 series in Calcutta and Chennai, of course. And then when India went to Australia, there were some very tasty test matches. Then we won in Adelaide and the Melbourne meltdown and Sydney. We almost won that match. And then again, 2004, they came back and finally breached the final frontier. And thereafter, there have been innumerable great test matches. Mohali 2010, for example, Brisbane 2021. Adelaide 2019. I mean, you just name the venues and all those memories come rolling into your mind. And 2017 series, as Rahul said, was a tremendous series. Pune Turner that beat India back. Bangalore game where Pujara and Rahane played out of the skin in the last innings to win the match. And then the Dharamshala, the supposed Turner that never actually turned after the second day. And the drama between Steve Smith and Virat Kohli. I mean, tremendous rivalry the last couple of decades.
In Dharamshala test last time, I had decided to take leave from office and go and watch it as a spectator. And I messed up the dates in a grand manner. I invited some people over from Bombay at home in Delhi. And it reached a stage where I missed the first 2 days of the test match. I reached there on the morning of the third. And I think it got over that afternoon or the next afternoon. Such a dampener because I thought it would be a great test match to watch. It was actually. Jo ek din tha usme, it was a fascinating test match, a great venue to watch. And since then, I've always wondered why Dharamshala isn't a regular fixture in Indian home series. This time, I mean, we know kind of what to expect in Nagpur and then in Delhi before the series moves to Dharamshala. But Sandeep, this has been the biggest talking point, right? The nature of pitches. What should we expect? And I mean, we are also seeing something unusual from Australia this time, who've started their tour all the way in Alur. So before we go to pitches, tell us something about Alur and why Australia are over there.
Alur is actually not very far from Bangalore. I mean, it's just 30-35 kilometers. But the thing is that because of Bangalore traffic, it takes a lot of time. It might take 1.5 hours to reach Alur in peak traffic, but it's a pretty quaint locale. I mean, where actually India used to practice once in a while before it was to West Indies in 2016, and after that, before they went to England also, they had a few days there. I mean, the facilities there are top class. Like, I mean, you get everything there. I mean, they'll make whichever pitch you want. Like, if you want a turner, they'll make a turner. A green top, they'll prepare you a green top. Maybe that's one of the reasons they went to Alur, and it's a little far from the city also. So I mean, there is peace. And similarly, the practice, the weekend practice in Australia was also in North Sydney Oval, which is like quite a quaint locality. So maybe they wanted to be a little far from all the bustle. And then again, there's obvious RCB presence in this team, ex-RCB presence in the team. Maybe they must have arranged something there. So like Dan Vettori, Andrew McDonald was a bowling coach. So, and they got assurance of this scuffed up pitches in Alur. Maybe that's why they went to Alur.
Well, the RCB presence in the team should have then got the Australian team to Thane, where I live, and where RCB practiced during the special COVID IPL series that they had when the RCB team used to travel. I mean, there are many things similar, Sandeep. The traffic from where they stayed in Mumbai to Thane is as horrendous as in Bangalore to Alur. And okay, Thane is not quite as quaint as Alur, but it has great misal pav. So, I mean, well, right after a practice session, misal pav is perfect, I guess.
Yeah, on the highway to Alur, like this first 20 kilometers is the traffic laden part. Once there, it's like 3-minute drive. It's a big highway where I mean, like. But if you miss one diversion, I mean, you are then 30-40 miles away will be the next diversion. A lot of accidents take place in that highway. I mean, it's pretty dangerous to drive at night in that highway. I mean, it's just like 150 kilometers. I mean, all these boys with fancy cars take their cars for a spin on that highway.
Talking about highways, Rahul Pandey, do you think the pitches that will be rolled out will be highways as well?
They sure as hell won't be the highways that the Australian team were used to in Pakistan just last year. But yeah, I think Sandeep wrote a fascinating piece recently talking about all the drama around the pitch, and he used a couple of words which I think most of these tracks will be referred to as akhadas or rank turners. But I think with India, what's special is, and going into this series than it was in the 2017, India have the luxury of world-class pacers as well as world-class spinners. And that's something in their capacity, no other team has in world cricket right now. Even though Australia have opted for 4 spinners for this tour, Nathan Ryan seems like the big threat. Whereas for India, when you look at that troika, which we are going to talk later in this episode, I guess, is going to be a prime factor. Also, it just shows in the numbers, right? I mean, so we were talking about India's dominance in 21st century at home. They've, of course, had the best win-loss ratio for any test-playing nation in this century so far. Have only lost 2 test series out of the 36 that they've played, one to Australia in 2004-05 and then the other to England in 2011 and 12. But of the wickets that they've picked at home, 68.75% have come from spinners, and out of those, 44% have been shared by Ashwin, Jadeja and Akshar, of whom are part of this Indian squad. So that's something to mention right before we go into talking about them. And that's a reason why India will look for pitches that are conducive to spin and pitches that can help them end test matches maybe in 4 days, maybe in 3.
Sandeep, I don't know what you think of rank turners. I mean, I know the argument always goes that you prepare conditions which are best suited to home teams. But on one hand, you have the triangle of Ashwin, Akshar and Ravindra Jadeja. And on the other, you have, say, for example, a Bumrah, Shami and Mohammad Siraj. I mean, as a cricket fan, I would love to see Bumrah, Shami and Siraj running at Australian batsmen on the first day of a test match. Any day I'll pick that. But tactically, what do you think is the best from an Indian point of view, the best outcome over here?
I think the team is so flexible that it can actually go for 3 seamers and 2 spinners, or 2 seamers and 3 spinners. I mean, since Jasprit Bumrah is unlikely to feature in the first 2 games, I expect Shami and Siraj duet, and this 3 spinners, and Aksar and Jadeja and Ashwin. But I mean, even like the South Africa series, for example, we played in 2019. Like Mohammad Shami was superb. I think fast bowlers did pretty well in that series. And the last time we beat Australia, we always forget this. Like Ashwin and Jadeja took a lot of wickets, but Umesh Yadav took 19 wickets in that series.
And we are not even talking about Umesh Yadav yet. It's incredible.
Yeah, he bowled brilliantly, especially in that drawn test in Dharamshala. He was exceptional. Like, I mean, he was getting reverse swing. He was making the ball tail in very late. Like, he's a very underrated bowler in Indian conditions, but actually he's a damn good bowler. So, I mean, this bunch of Indian seamers can also do the job. I mean, with as much ease as the spinners, maybe. And quite a few of them, especially Mohammad Shami. Mohammad Shami has a terrific record in the 4th innings and 3rd innings. You expect spinners to be in the game at that stage, but this guy he's been fantastic in that series. Like that test match against South Africa and Visakhapatnam, 2nd innings. Wow, one of the best spells ever bowled by an Indian seamer. And he was like proper.
I just enjoyed the spontaneous wah that came from you, Sandeep. I think that's the reason enough where I think all of us should just go and YouTube that spell, because it was quite wow.
Yeah, and it was a spectacle also. You see stems cartwheeling, batsmen getting blasted on the front foot. It was like Shami is a spectacle. I mean, when Shami has his peak, it's a very beautiful bowler.
If you're, say, in the Indian team management shoes right now, what would you be looking for? Because on one hand, you have a great fast bowling troika, and Australia do have decent pacers. But India's issues against spin too are well documented. I mean, Rahul mentioned at the top of the episode I think it was the Pune test, wasn't it, last time when Australia came here?
Pune test, yeah. Pune test, Chennai test against England. And even when you actually look at it, spinners have overseas spinners, not necessarily great ones. Even people like Jack Leach and Dom Bess, Moeen Ali took 8 wickets in one test match. So I mean, strangely, he just played that test in Chepauk and then he returned home. So Indian batsmen do have an issue, especially Cheteshwar Pujara and Virat Kohli, who since 2021, since that England tour, Virat Kohli has averaged 22.80, around that in India. And Pujara has also averaged around 22 against spinners in India. Though that Bangladesh series he discovered some of his touch, and he scored 190, so that obviously bolstered his average. But they do have an issue. And another thing is that 2 of India's best players who spin are not here: Shreyas Iyer and Rishabh Pant. And look at the impact they had in some of the innings, like Rishabh Pant, obviously Ahmedabad played a blinder, and Shreyas Iyer against New Zealand, India were in the soup, like 3-4 wickets down, and against Sri Lanka in Bangalore as well, Shreyas Iyer and it's the same batsman, same group, Shreyas Iyer and Rishabh Pant bailed India out of a tricky position. So that's kind of a blind spot for India. Like, I mean, 2 of the finest players who spin not there. And it's like Virat Kohli's problem has been against both type of spinners, like left arm spinners as well as off spinners. So that is also a big concern going into the series. I mean, Rohit Sharma also, like, I mean, he's a terrific player of spin, but he bats at the top. So if he gets out, that's going to be a bit of a hassle for India.
You mentioned Rishabh Pant, and the last India tour of Australia, the 2020-21 tour of Australia, I think he was the most influential figure, if we can say that, in turning around the test series in India's favour. Him not being there, how big a blow is that, Rahul Pandey? Because I don't know, yaar, mere mein at least Ishan Kishan is still not inspiring the same confidence. Kafi inconsistency lag rahi hai. Doesn't have that same aura around him. I know it's still very early days and you need to give him time, but I think Test cricket aisa ek beast hai ki it doesn't give you time, and if you don't kind of stamp your authority, then you'll be, I mean, Australia surely will be feasting on you.
Absolutely, Mihir. And I think for Rishabh, it's the kind of effect that he has had on the test team. It's been unparalleled in terms of being a keeper batter for India in the red ball format. I think he's already surpassed the likes of Dhoni with his numbers, not just with the bat, but also behind the stumps. I think Australia too, se pehle, one of the big arguments against Pant was that his keeping at home of spinners the likes of Ashwin, Jadeja, वो उतनी comfortable नहीं लगती थी. He wasn't able to stop turning balls behind the stumps, but that has significantly improved over the last couple of years. So has been his batting. I mean, वो जो एक counter-attacking weapon है in your arsenal for Team India, that's been Pant. He's taken spinners head on. He has test hundreds in South Africa, England, Australia, and at home, of course. During later stages of the test match, you need a batter like him to, score quick runs and put the opposition under pressure, ताकि आप थोड़ा early declare करके you may want to go up against them, because India have the luxury of doing that, given the kind of bowlers they have in their team. But also, I think this one factor, which not many people talk about in Test cricket, is Pant's ability to just liven up the field from behind the stumps, constant chatter, that Pant radio talks, all of that, which we used to do since that Australia series. It's all true. I mean, वो एक effect होता है bowlers पे, because when you're bowling 90 overs a day and something is not happening. I remember during the Chennai Test, जो England जीती थी in the 4-match Test series, Pant was probably the only one who was trying to get the bowlers going, even more so than Virat Kohli. Virat Kohli, of course, not played that first Test match, but even more so than the rest of the players. So I think it's important to have that kind of figure in the team. And Ishan Kishan, who hasn't had the best of the time in white ball cricket right now, may not be going into the series with as much confidence. So yeah, India may lack a bit in that wicket-keeping department. But yeah, we'll have to see how it begins for them in Nagpur.
I think India will still go with KS Bharat, man, rather than Ishan Kishan, because KS is an excellent wicketkeeper. I mean, arguably India's best wicketkeeper behind. I mean, when you look at purely the wicket-keeping skills, now that you don't have Pant, I mean, you don't have his ammunition, you don't have somebody to impact the match like that. So better to go with a very safe wicketkeeper than maybe a counter-attacking batsman. I mean, he's an exceptional wicketkeeper. Thing is, he's a pretty good batsman also. So, I mean, he's a little upgrade on Vridhiman Saha in terms of batting. He used to open for Andhra. So yeah, I mean, instead of Ishan Kishan, it's I think KS Bharat it's a bit more interesting prospect.
But on the balance, if you were to look at both squads, I mean, how do you rate them? What's Australia getting here?
Yeah, just like India, Rishabh Pant, they don't have Cameron Green. That's going to dishevel their balance a little bit.
And is Stark fit for the first test?
Unlikely, man. I don't think Stark, but he's fit for the first test. But anyway, I mean, Stark's actually Pat Cummins, Josh Hazelwood, and perhaps Scott Boland look more than capable to replace Mitchell Stark, who hasn't done exceptionally well in India. I mean, he somehow hasn't managed. Yeah, there have been occasional sparks. I remember in 2013, a couple of games he bowled well. 2017, more or less, he has been very erratic against India in general. So Australia will struggle for that. I mean, on paper now, India looks a much more balanced side, and especially when it comes to spin bowling all-rounder options. Like, I mean, India have they have two more or less proper spin bowling all-rounders. They have Ashwin is one of the few batsmen to actually score 100 on this kind of turners. In the last 8 games, I think just 6-7 Indian batsmen have scored 100s. Pujara hasn't scored 100. Virat Kohli hasn't scored 100. But Ashwin has 100. Ashwin scored 100 in Chepauk, the second innings, I guess. So when you look at that aspect, India definitely have better balance than Australia. Who will still be trying to figure out which is the best 11. I mean, I think it will take a couple one test at least to home in on who the best 11 is.
I mean, it looks very evenly poised. But Sandeep and Rahul, do you think? I mean, India have gone an entire decade without losing a series at home. Do you think that record looks set to remain intact, or is it under threat this time when Australia are here?
I mean, it's interesting because both these teams are at the top of the World Test Championship rankings. So effectively, if India win 3 Test matches, South Africa will be out of contention for playing that World Test Championship final later on. So that's one big long-term picture that the series can bring. But yeah, Australia have done well in subcontinent in recent times. I think their two to Pakistan and Sri Lanka, they did really well. The batters did really well against spin. So, that's probably one department where they can compete toe-to-toe with India, because of the problems that Sandeep mentioned Indian batters have had against spin. So I think, that's one area which will decide this series, because we knew as soon as Australia announced their squad, they brought in 4 spinners. They brought in someone who hasn't played first-class cricket before on this tour. It's going to be exciting to look in terms of how these two teams tackle spin. And I think, if one team had to sort of, end that run, it may as well be Australia, but they'll have to start well in Nagpur is all I'm saying.
Sandeep, do you think it'll come down to who begins the series well, or do you think it'll go down to the last ball, last session?
The last ball, last session is slightly unlikely, but it'll at least go to 3 test matches.
Oh, that'll be interesting though.
Yeah. I think Australia will definitely fight back, which they have shown in innumerable times. The good thing with this Australian batting lineup is that, Usman Khawaja has rediscovered his touch. He's never looked this sublime ever in his life. And they sorted out this game. And then Matthew Renshaw has been batting pretty well. He's a pretty good player of spin, as he showed in 2017. They've picked Peter Handsko. I don't know when he'll be fit to play, but he's also a pretty good player of spin. So and of course Marnus Labuschagne and Steve Smith and Steve.
They all did pretty well in Pakistan too, right?
Yeah, and Travis Head, he also played pretty well in Pakistan. So it's from the team that toured India in 2017. The batting at least looks much more solid.
It does look solid, and at this point, let's get Anwiti and Shashank, our 2 producers in. Anwiti she is a welcome change because all our producers so far were so disinterested in sport that हमें मतलब पता नहीं था क्या था, but Anwiti is right at it. So Anwiti, what's your take on this series?
Well, that introduction will really ruin what I'm about to say, but I have a very scientific way of proving who's going to win the series. And it's tested by my mother.
Wow.
If Australia wins the first, toss of the first match, then Australia will win the series. If India wins the first match toss, then India will win the series. Second and third tosses don't matter.
And that is just a superstition, right?
No, it's purely scientific.
All right, then we'll see. We'll hold you to that. Shashank, Bhargav, are you absolutely excited for this series?
I'm so excited that I've completely forgotten about the budget.
Lovely.
So mera excitement food ke nikal raha hai.
Well, see, that's what cricket can do, especially India-Australia series can do. आप बजट्स जैसी सब बोरिंग चीज़ों से आप एटलीस्ट थोड़ा सा अभी अटेंशन डाइवर्ट करके यहाँ पर थोड़ा ध्यान दीजिएगा, because I think next 1 month is going to be fascinating cricket. And well, to complement that lovely series, we'll be having all the latest for you guys from the grounds and from, well, I was just going to say studios, but that'll be too fancy for the places where we are recording this. But yeah, do keep listening to Game Time. We'll be there every Saturday. Sandip G will be there at Nagpur. Rahul will be in Manesar and I'll be in Mumbai. Thanks all for listening. Thanks all for joining. Sandeep, Rahul, Shashank and Anwiti. We'll be back next week.
You were listening to Express Podcasts. Today's show was edited and mixed by Abhishek Kumar and produced by me, Anwiti Singh. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone who you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.